Hello and welcome to Wolfman Gaming. This is my Callisto Protocol Final Transmission DLC walkthrough, and this is episode 5, which I have decided to name Information Overload. Because throughout this walkthrough I have somewhat showed you where to get the different collectibles. And there are 8 data drives you can pick up throughout this DLC, and at this point, if you have followed along and you picked up all of them, you should have 7. And in this episode I will be picking it, or no, actually I won't be picking it up, because I don't do collectibles. This is as close to a collectible guide I will ever get. So if you're going for the collectibles, you want to do like 100% in this game. Hopefully you managed to unlock quick pick at this point, because I think we have gotten past the last quick pick puzzle, or last, what's called, like those Da Vinci Code things. The one with the kinetic hammer was the last one, I think, and it's also the hardest one. If you haven't yet unlocked that trophy, I highly recommend you go back to the very first one, Da Vinci Code looking thing in this DLC, put the game on easy and just repeat that until you get it. It is tricky, it is finicky, but I trust in you that you will be able to get through that. But either way, now since we are getting close to the end of this DLC, this episode is the second to last one. This game pulls out all the stops. It will throw everything at you, including the kitchen sink. But never fear, we will get through this together. And I must say, this is my favorite section of this DLC, because I talked about in a previous episode that this is a bit more surreal than the main game. And this is where it gets really, really trippy. Because Jacob isn't feeling too well. He has had a shit stay at Black Iron Prison. We are going through this place for a second time. He's miserable, he's tired, he's beaten, probably taking a lot of hard punches, taking down Captain Ferris, God knows how many biophages and biobots and whatever. And his sense of reality is starting to like the sync up between how he perceives reality and what reality actually is are like getting out of touch with each other. And I think that's really cool, because you will see enemies like spawning in and suddenly disappearing. Just like this. And it's really cool because it keeps you on your toes, because you don't know what you're supposed to dodge and what you can just ignore. I would say, because this is really intense, there are a lot of enemies going through these corridors. The good thing about the kinetic hammer is, as you can see, whenever you hit a regular biophage with it, it will instantly kill them. You will go immediately into the execution animation, I guess you could call it. And there is no reason. I sometimes use the ground pound attack, because just to try to take out more than one enemy at once. But I've said, when you fight Biobots with the kinetic hammer, make sure to use the heavy swing. With the regular biophages, you can do regular R2 swings. It will still instantly murder them. And be very careful in this corridor, because enemies will come in sometimes from all different directions, it feels. So try to keep all of them in front of you. That is something we've gone over multiple times, that Jacob will dodge anything and everything that comes in from the front, as long as you hold your analog stick either to the left or the right. Swings that come in from the back, no. He will take that like a champ. So be careful. Always try to keep the enemies in front of you and never get greedy, because when you're fighting regular biophages, there's no reason for you to actually get hit. You see me take 1 or 2 punches here, and that is because I got greedy. And that is a mistake on my part, and especially if you're masochistic enough to try to play this on maximum security, which I did on my first playthrough. I've talked about that in previous videos, that I played this on maximum security my first playthrough, and I said I didn't complete it. By the way, I love this part. 2-head coming in, and this is really scary the first time, but he swings and he's gone. I love that. So cool. And I wonder what happens if you don't dodge there. If it just... because it looks like he disappears mid-swing. So I think you're probably safe. But don't test it. Make sure to dodge just for safety's sake, because if he is anything like the 2 heads in the main game, he will kill you in 1 hit. Most likely. But where was I? Yes, I said that I didn't complete the game on maximum security difficulty, and that is true actually. I did not complete this DLC. I got up to... we're gonna go into another room after this corridor, and that is where my maximum security run ended. Just because in that room you're fighting a bunch of biobots, and I've said that I think the main weak point of this DLC is the fact that biobots have unblockable swings, and they will do on, especially when you're playing it on hard or maximum security, that becomes so annoying so quickly, because they can take so much punishment before you manage to take them down. And with their unblockable, undodgeable swing bullshit, they will usually go through your health before you have a chance to take down their health. But enough about that. I've talked at great length about that. And actually, I must say, when I bought this DLC, I bought this DLC on its release. And I was super happy because when this was released, I'm not sure if this was a conscious choice from Sony, but when this DLC was released, the PlayStation Store had a extended play sale. And the season pass for this game was actually on that sale when this came out. So I checked the price of the season pass and compared it to the price of this DLC. And there was like a 50 cent or 5 Swedish crowns difference in price. I think this DLC costs like 180 crowns, which is around $170, or no, not $170, $17. That's a big difference. And yeah, I think it cost 180 crowns, and I think the season pass cost 185 or something. So now I have contagion mode and riot mode and all that. So I talked about that in main game, that I refuse to pay for difficulties. But since I was already picking up this expansion, I might as well get everything all at once. So maybe one day I'll try on contagion mode and hardcore mode. By the way, going into this room, behind this door, behind those boxes or behind that wall are 2 biobots. If you are a little bit quick here, you can almost get a free swing on this first one. But if you don't manage to do it, just go in and be super aggressive, and hopefully you take down the first one before the other one has a chance to react. That is seldomly the case, but usually you have to you have the time to at least cushion him up. Soften him up was the word I meant to say. And in this room we are also gonna see or find the last data drive, which is behind these boxes. You have it right there. So pick that up, get the information overload trophy, and you're welcome. As close to collectibles I will ever get in my walkthroughs. I think, at least. And before we move on, make sure to pick up this gate fuse. We need to find 3 gate fuses to open the hatch down to the loading bay. And now we're gonna head up 1 floor. And when we get up here on this walkway, I'm gonna continue onwards until we see a door open and a Biobot come in. Then we are gonna run back to this corner because a Biobot will come in through that door as well. And he is weaker. I think he only has 1 arm, so we're gonna take him out first. So keep an eye over to the left. As soon as you see the door open, run back. Because this door opens, yes, he only has 1 arm, and we go in really hot. Coming in hot, going at it aggressively, and then we have time to take him out before the other one even comes over here. Because these are a lot easier to fight 1 at a time than 2. You see? Easy peasy. No problems at all. And we can continue on our merry way. God, I hate those enemies. And this vent, thankfully, is completely safe. No traps in there. We have gotten past our last trap as well. And once again, Jacob is crouching. That is something I've said, that sometimes he just starts crouching. I don't know if it's my controller or the game is just a little bit odd when it comes out. Maybe it has to do with Jacob not feeling so well and his grasp on reality is starting to fade on him. But we need to make sure to bring this box out here so we can climb up and pick up fuse number 2. It's always interesting with these because you use the same button to grab them as you do to climb up on them. But here we have fuse number 2, and now we are gonna go into the room where I gave up on maximum security. This is like a mini boss fight, so to speak. I would almost call it a mini boss fight. This will be a gauntlet of enemies. The longest 2.5 minutes throughout this entire game, I would say, except for the final boss. And when we get into this fight, try to be once again as aggressive as possible. Try to take out 1 Biobot before the next one has time to move up to you. Whenever they start charging up that AoE blast, always go in with a heavy swing so you make sure you interrupt it, because that is basically, that charge up is basically free damage. He's inviting you for a free swing, and go for a home run when you do it. And this fight, as I think I said so, this fight is actually where I gave up. And in a sense, because I was getting so frustrated, if I had persevered, sooner or later I would have gotten through this. I'm confident in that. But it's one of those things that just isn't worth it. And I think it's sad, I've said it before, when it comes to these Biobots, I think it's sad that the developers decided to do such a thing, that they have those undodgeable swings, because in a game where everything is built around you being able to dodge anything and everything the enemies throw at you, to suddenly change it up is a really odd design choice. And I would say it's quite poor game design. Thankfully, on normal, it's not such big of a problem, so it takes away from the fun of playing the game overall. Because I think this DLC, overall, I think it's kind of fun. I enjoy the main game more because I think combat worked so much better. But either way, I think that was the last of them at least. And make sure to pick everything clean before you head out of here, because that was your last combat, regular combat in this game. All that remains now is to take on the final boss of the DLC, which we will be doing in the next and final episode. But you want to pick up everything, so we'll have 2 more chances to go to the store and stack up for the final boss fight. So I hope you're ready for it, because it is challenging, I will say that. But I want to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video. So until next time, this is the Wolfman signing off.